Okay, hello everybody. We are Lady, Judy, Fabian, Alex, and I. We're going to talk about inquiry-based learning. Uh, Next, please. And the question is, what is inquiry-based learning? Um, as Pedaste, Mayos, Lehen, and Sharapu have stated, it can be defined as a process of discovering new causal relations with the learning, formulating hypotheses by testing them by conducting experiments and making observations. It wants to engage students in an authentic, specific discovery process from a pedagogical perspective. The complex, specific process is divided into smaller, logically connected units that guide the students and draw attention to important features of scientific thinking. It is also creating curiosity in students and initiating a student's curiosity achieves more complex uh, goals than information delivery. In addition to that, inquiry-based learning is considered easier for teachers because it does not only shift the responsibility from the educators or teachers to students, but also it is engaging for the students. Now, the next question is, why is inquiry-based learning a form of experiential learning? As you can see in this slide, inquiry-based learning is a student-centered and teacher-guided instructional approach that engage students in investigating real-world questions that they choose with a broad thematic framework. Inquiry-based instruction complements traditional instruction by providing a vehicle for extending and applying the learning of students in a way that connects with their interests within a broader thematic framework. As you can see, a student acquire and analyze information, develop support propositions, provide solutions, and design technology and arts products that demonstrate or show their thinking and make their learning visible. However, this kind of learning requires a certain level of independent learning skills, and children or the student need to have developed the information processing skills needed for working with a minimal guidance. Alice.
Okay, so moving on with the different components that inquiry-based learning has. The first of them is that inquiry-based learning allows the students to build on correct knowledge. It means that the students are taking into account that they have to follow some experiments. They construct their knowledge based on evidence and observations. This represents a change in the curriculum content because they are not going to use anymore the book knowledge, and they are not going to follow what the book states, but also they are going to have the possibility to connect their knowledge with prior experience, and they are going to be able to connect it with the real world. The second component is that it exists a change of the mode of the learning process, in which the students are not going to be anymore those passive learners, because now they have to take control of their own experience, of their own learning experience, and they are going to have an active learning. So here, the students are going to take control what they need to learn based on what I already mentioned, that are the evidence and the observation. And the third component is that the teacher acts as a guide. Here, the teacher has the possibility to give the instructions to the students, and the students need to follow the instructions, but they need to construct and they need to create and organize what they need to answer in the question. Next, we have the different benefits of the inquiry-based instructions, in which one of them is that this approach teaches problem-solving, critical thinking skills, and disciplinary content. So when working with problem-solving here, the students have the possibility to answer those questions that can emerge through the different classes, and based on this process is emerged, and they have the possibility to develop the critical thinking. Also, this approach promotes the transfer of concepts to new problem questions. Also, it teaches students how to learn and build self-directed learning skills. Here, the students can create a little bit of autonomy taking into account that they are the ones who take control of their own learning process. And finally, it develops the students' own ownership of the inquiry and enhance the students' interest in the subject matter. Because taking on this, the students can create different questions that are part of their interest and what they really want to learn. In addition, here, students can have curiosity. Also, it increases engagement with a different material and create love of learning.
And then at this point, we have challenges of inquiry-based learning. And the first one is lack of curriculum connection, but this is specifically challenging in testing performance and the reluctance of participate, which means that most of the students or some of the students are not prepared for this kind of testing or for testing their performance, which this could be very detrimental. One of the solutions is to take into account the role of the teacher in connecting curricular outcomes to the line of inquiry is fundamental for the solution. And then the reluctance, the motivation. So the professor needs to be a guide for the student to be motivated, to be autonomous in the whole process. And then we have the teacher preparedness and student readiness. Sometimes the teacher Magnus has a lot to for example, if the teacher doesn't complete and understand or embrace this concept, of course, it's gonna be unable to engage the student in a deeper level. So this creates a disconnect, which it towards leave to students unprepared, and it's a risk in which teacher must have a clear understanding of the value of creating a learner-centered classroom. And then finally, we have the assessment. The nature of inquiry-based learning doesn't lend itself to traditional models of assessment. So the teacher-centered paradigm of preparing assessment that are designed to confirm retention of predetermined knowledge will not work well in an inquiry setting. So this model will standardize and effectively limit the level of achievement to those that have already been decided by the teacher. Next.
Perfect. So talking about the principles of inquiry-based learning, we have different approaches to these principles. There are four main ones that are related to the questions related to the topic of inquiry to be explored, that also other theoreticians call the problem statement. The second part, or the second principle, is investigating, researching, gathering information related to the question, that is also known as the data collection. The third one is the analysis or the discussion of the findings. And the fourth one, the implementation and conclusions, the reflection about what was learned. These principles are represented also in 5 phases. So we have the orientation, that the idea is to promote or stimulate the curiosity about the topic, address the learning challenge through the problem statement. In the conceptualization, that is part of the investigation, we have the questioning and the hypothesis generation. Is about the stating the theory-based questions and the hypothesis. In the investigation principle, that phase, the investigation is about exploration and experimentation, the data interpretation. So to plan the exploration, how we are going to experiment, to collect the data, analyze the data based on the previous learning and the database that we have collected. On the conclusion, we draw the conclusion, we compare the inference that we have made versus the data and the hypothesis or the research questions. And in the final part, the discussion, we present the findings, we communicate those findings with the other people, we control the learning process, and we engage the reflective activities. Next one.
Okay, so to complement what Fabian was saying, the procedure of applying the inquiry-based learning approach can be gathered in 7 steps. So the first one is tuning in, or identifying and defining the issue. So in these steps, the activities involved can be provide students with the opportunity to become engaged with the topic and ascertain the students' initial curiosity about the topic, allow students to share their personal experience of the topic. So some questions to ask there are, what is the issue about? What do they want to find out? What feelings or opinions do they already have? So in the second step is preparing to find out. So it's the formulation of hypotheses. And this involves activities designed to find out what the students already know about the topic and to provide students with a focus for the forthcoming experience and to help in the planning of further experience and activity. So some questions to ask in this stage are, what would happen if, what do we know already, what questions do we need to ask, and why is this happening? So the third step is finding out, or the collection of ideas. This is not an end itself, but a means towards developing an understanding. This involves activities designed to further stimulate the students' curiosity and provide new information which may answer some of the students' questions that they made earlier, and to raise other questions for the students to explore in the future. This challenges students' knowledge, beliefs, and values, and helps students make sense of future or further activities and experiences which have been planned for them. So some questions to ask here are who, what, where has information we need, how relevant or useful is this information, how else might we find out about this. So the fourth step is sorting out, that is processing and analyzing. This involves activities designed to provide students with concrete means of sorting out and representing information of and ideas arising from the finding out stage. So this provides students with the opportunity to process the information they have gathered and present this in a number of ways. And this allows for a diverse range of outcomes. So some questions to ask here in this step are, how might we sort out this information? How can we categorize this information? And the fifth step is going further. So this involves activities designed to extend and challenge students about the topic and to provide more information in order to broaden the range of understanding available to the students. And some questions to ask here are, what more do we need to know? So the sixth step is making connections. So it has to be with drawing conclusions. And this involves activities designed to help students draw conclusions about what they have learned by interpreting information, developing and modifying generalizations. And some questions to ask here are, how does this relate to our earlier questions and hypotheses? And how we change our thinking about this topic. And the final step is taking actions. So it could be social actions. And this involves activities designed to assist students to make links between their understanding and their experience in the real world, and enable students to make choices and develop the belief that they can be effective participants in the society. So in this step is where students have the opportunity to show what they have learned and in different ways.
Perfect. So talking about how to implement inquiry-based learning, it follows three-step process that can be incorporated in many curriculums. So the base of these questions are about the students and how we can promote that interest on the students. So the first question, what do I already know about the subject? The second question, what do I want to know about the subject? And the third one, what I have learned about the subject. These three questions could be enhanced by 5 strategies. So let's start by the big question. The idea is that it works as a catalyst to get the students thinking deeply about the subject that we are inquiring. The second strategy related to what they already know is to base those experiences on life experiences of the students, on previous learning knowledge. The third strategy, what they want to know, wander out the world around the students, what catch their interest, what they are willing to learn, to explore, to become masters on. The fourth one, embark in the discovery phase of learning process. The students feel motivated to answer the questions, they are willing to reach, they are willing to read, to listen information that helps them to have a deeper thinking about the subject that we are inquiring. And the fifth strategy, to find out what they have learned. So remember, what is the most important in inquiry-based learning is to promote the curiosity, the motivation. So in that purpose, we can create high energy learning centers. And with these energy centers, we increase the excitement, the participation of the students, and we create a participative and productive English skills. So that's one. Perfect. So there are some additional suggestions that we want to propose to you if you are interested in applying the inquiry-based learning. So the inquiry activities themselves should concentrate on building information and processing processing that information and the critical thinking abilities. The second suggestion, give students a fair hands look and how to complete the steps. So it is pretty recognizable that the students, they are not willing to research by themselves, to read or to listen. So they have to find a support in the professor or in the teacher that help them to complete the steps that are designed for the inquiry process. The content piece must be related to a topic of interest of the students, and that topic effectively engages them. So because it's about motivation, it's about curiosity, it's about excitement, it's about participation. So we should focus on topics that they really wonder about. And in that purpose, the student can ask the question that stimulates the class curiosity, and they can prepare and they can launch themselves the inquiry activity. So these are some of the recommendations. Here we have our references, and also we are going to continue with some activities that we have prepared for you and some successful activities that has been implemented in different classes using inquiry-based learning. Thank you so much for being with us, and let's continue with the second part.